Bonjour everyone, no shining lights today because we have the pleasure of getting the beautiful sunrise as it's 8 a.m. here, and today we're gonna talk about tanks that are specialized in HE. When we talk about this kind of tank, if you've played the game long enough or if you had the pleasure of grinding the British tech tree, you are already aware of two tanks that are truly specialized in that, aka the FV1A3 with its 242mm of penetration with HE shells, which makes it one of the hardest and most infuriating tanks to play against, and the FV4202, obviously the medium that switched its heat shell with its second gun to HE shells that will, yes, penetrate less, but at least you'll get 440 alpha damage every time you hit and penetrate something. But did you know that two tiers below are hiding two monsters that are definitely gonna change your life once you understand how they work in terms of mechanism? And those two tanks are the RU251 and the KPZ M4190mm. I'm talking about both tanks, and this is the cool thing about them, because of course you have the regular version, the RU251, which is in the tech tree that you can test out, and if you like it, the upgraded version, or at least in my opinion the upgraded version, is the M4190mm Bulldog, which is a premium that you can acquire for gold, and that is coming back every Twister Cup for 5,000 gold, so it's definitely cheap considering the abilities of that thing. So it's truly a deal if you're interested into this mechanism. But what is the mechanism? Take a look at the gun. When you take a look at the statistics, usually people tend not to care too much about the rounded statistic. What I mean by that is that when you take a look at a gun, most of the time you're going to take a look at two things: the gun depression, so here 8 degrees, which is good, and the DPM, to tell yourself, okay, that gun is reliable, etc, etc, with it I can do this, I can do that, but you're not necessarily going deeper into the analysis of these guns. And this one you should, because when you take a look at your high explosive penetration, you have 102mm, which means that with this kind of tank, if you manage to either circle around or get behind tanks, specifically at tier 7 and tier 8, which is the case of those, you will have more DPM than ever. Because if you manage to penetrate all your shells using HE, not only do you get 320 alpha damage per shot, you get with your DPM something like 3.5k, which is among the highest at tier 8. So if you use them correctly, you will just be a nightmare to your opponents. But let's take a look at how it feels in battle. Because of course, those tanks are not necessarily broken, because if it was the case, everyone would play it. No, this kind of playstyle, quite original, and that will definitely change your life, at least your World of Tank Blitz life, if you're already worried about the regular, medium, and heavy meta, is that those are actually fun. It's truly fun to penetrate HE where you're not supposed to penetrate, or at least where the vast majority of other tanks at the same tier couldn't penetrate with their HE. But let's take a look at what I mean by that. Here we're playing with the RU251. We're playing aggressively because obviously we have the mobility to do so, but at the same time we do not want to go too far, otherwise we are gonna get totally smoked. And it's already starting. I switched to HE on that Lorraine. I'm trying to make him shot my my tracks in order for him to be reloading, and when it's the case, I finally can come across and get my shot straight in. Switching to HE once again, bang, 243 straight on the Progetto 46. And it's gonna keep going. With those tanks, when you can play with HE only, your DPM is devastating and you are gonna be a great asset for your teammates. But as I told you, you need to know the playstyle. So how do you do this? How do you manage to penetrate all those HE, or at least how do you manage not to be the main target for you to be able to penetrate those HEs? Because you understood it, you can't do this if people are facing you, because 102mm of penetration with HE is not enough for you to penetrate frontally those tanks, except if we're talking about an RHM or things like that, but those, we're gonna put those tanks aside. So basically, what you need to understand is that if you want to use your HEs, you need to play in support, while at the same time being a little bit aggressive, but not too much. The thing you need here is to play with the nerves of your opponents. You need to attack when they can't face back toward you, and you at the same time, you need to take them by surprise. So how do we do that? We see the perfect example right now. I'm gonna pause real quick the game. I'm going to their ass. You can see it here. Yes, there is a VK right there, but it's not necessarily going to be a problem. We're gonna deal with him after. Why is it not a problem? Because with us, we have the Yak Tiger, which is a much bigger threat than me. But at the same time, those two tanks, they do not have the possibility of turning back because in front of them, they have to face with bigger opponents, aka the M6 XP and the 53 TP, which means that if I slide myself to their left, I will be able to get their ass without them knowing it and without them being able to turn back on me, which means that it's the perfect position. This is the kind of position from which you know you are going to use your HE and you're happy just thinking about it. You have the saliva running around your mouth like you are an enraged dog. So the 50-20 is trying something, but of course, as I had the Yak Tiger with me, it was impossible. And now we're gonna have some fun, because now we switch to HE, and here you see the true power of the RU, or at least what you're expected to do with it. Do not bother shooting with AP or gold shell, even if it's a tier 9 in the back. Switch to HE and see how easy it is for you to penetrate as long as you sneak your shells on the weak spots. Here, for example, on that object 752, we did around 800 damage within maybe 20-25 seconds. And it's the biggest asset because usually light tanks are supposed to spot, but those are specifically designed to spot, obviously, thanks to their mobility, but also to do tons of damage. So I beg you guys, if you get an RU251 or an M41 90mm Bulldog, get those tanks not necessarily to spot, but rather to play aggressively, play sneaky to help your team and change a little bit the playstyle. Let's make the light tank playstyle not something about just spotting, going from one spot to another to help your team. I'm not saying that it's not helpful. It is helpful. Take a look at that, 300 on your turret. And just try those kind of playstyle. Play aggressively with your light tanks. Sign a petition. We do want to play our light tank aggressively. We want heavy tanks to fear lights and not the other way around. Now, one last thing I need to notice about HE shells, which makes this playstyle incredibly fun in my opinion, is that with those HE, you get your module damage increase, which means that you have more chance with an HE shell if you shoot in the rack of your opponent, for example, the ammo rack. You have more chance than a regular AP, APCR or heat shell to destroy it on the first go, which means that if you switch to HE and penetrate, you increase by, I don't know, maybe 30%, 20%, I couldn't tell you exactly, but you increase your chances of destroying the module. So if you know where the ammo racks are, you are gonna get plenties of ammo racks, and trust me, it's just hilarious to be able to use them if you know where the ammo rack is. So basically, this video is a call for you to try those lights, but try it my way. I'm saying my way because it's my video, but obviously a lot of people did this this kind of playstyle before me. But try it this way, boys. Try to sneak as much HE as possible by sneaking around, lurking them, baiting them with your allies, and going around, snap their neck, and just kill them all, because after all, this is what this game is all about. It's pretty brutal, if you ask me, but yeah, kill them all. So hopefully you enjoyed. Tell me in the comments if you like your Bulldog or your RU251. I would be curious, for those of you that never tried it or didn't know about the HE penetration of those tanks, just try them out in battle, because obviously there are multiple tanks at this tier 8, that you can penetrate using those HE. So try them out and tell me after what you think about them. Maybe one last thing I need to add before ending this video: do not try that if you're not experienced, because obviously light tanks are not meant for new players or average players. They are meant for players that already know a lot about maps, knowledge of tanks, knowledge of reload time, etc., etc., because otherwise you're just gonna get snapped. But If you're experienced and never tried those, just do it, boys. See ya.